You can be wealthy. Yes, you can be wealthy. We can all be wealthy. You can start creating wealth from where you are with what you have. You just need to understand how the process looks like. Welcome to a word from the coach. In this week's edition, we delve deeper into the process of wealth creation. In last week's edition, we were looking at the definition of wealth and wealth creation, and particularly the interesting bit where we had a food for thought, and we were asking the question, if your income were to stop, if your salary was to stop, if your main business stopped, how many days would you run life living at the same expenditure rate as you're doing today? And we said this needs to be a question we will be asking ourselves as time progresses. And our aim as we ask this question is to ensure that the answer we are getting is growing by the day. But the question many of you are asking, and I got quite a number of inbox messages, were people asking, what is the process? How do we begin to go about this? How is it done? And I promised in that video that this week we will be looking at the process, the step by step, and that is what I want us to do today. So I hope you have your pen and paper ready, because this is going to be some classroom stuff so that you can begin to understand how wealth is created in a simplified way. But before we get into it, please take a second and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out every time we have such content coming your way. Done it? Right, so let's get into it. Now, like we said last time, wealth creation is a process. It's not an overnight thing. You do not become wealthy overnight. It is a deliberate process. And the conversation of wealth has disturbed me over a long period of time. Back in the day, I would be asking myself questions, especially coming from my struggles with debt. I would begin to wonder, how come while I would be going through that particular struggle, there are other people who are not bothered, that is not what is on their mind. While some other people are struggling with putting food on the table, there is someone who knows that for them, putting food on the table is nowhere in their current problems. That even if their active incomes were to stop, they know for sure they'll be worried about other things except putting food on the table. And of course, we are operating at different levels. Different people will be worried about different things. When things like COVID-19 would strike, different people are worried about different things. There were those who are worried about being able to put food on the table. There are others who are worried about their passive incomes being affected. There were others who are worried about other things, others who are worried about what would happen to them 10 years from when COVID was happening. But then before you get there, there are things that must be done. And I discovered that each one of us can be able to play in the game of wealth creation. And so I figured out a process. I call it the focused wealth creation cycle. And I use a triangle to connote this process. Let me move this way so that I can be able to project this triangle here for you to see even as we go through this process. The process of wealth creation is a process that has got 3 stages. In other words, for wealth to be created, your money has to be allowed to walk through 3 stages. Sometimes I call them 3 boxes. And for purposes of this discussion, I will use colors to describe each of the boxes. The first box, which is at the apex of the triangle, is the red box that you see over there. And that is the box I call the box of money acquisition and management. The box of money acquisition and management. In other words, that is the box that receives money. Wealth is created from money. You cannot create wealth from nothing. Okay? So that means the starting point is you getting out, doing something to get money. Now, we have got very many people doing something to get money. All of those people are in that first box, the box of money, acquisition, and management, the red box. So it's the largest box because it houses each one of us who does something, who wakes up in the morning, goes to work, opens a business, does whatever they do, and they get money at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, after whatever period. So anyone who is economically active, anyone who wakes up in the morning and does something and gets money is in that box. That's why I say it's the largest box in terms of composition. It has all of us accommodated there. It is also the busiest box because it is the box in which we get to make choices. We get to decide when we have received our money, what do we do with it? We spend it this way, we spend it this way, we spend it this way. So it's the busiest box because we are making daily choices in that box. It is also the box where if you blunder in your choice making, you find yourself in trouble. You realize that your money begins to be depleted before you receive the next one. You realize that you begin to borrow for consumption. You realize that you begin to get trapped in debt. All those things happen in that box. The choices you make in that box will dictate whether you will live in the other two boxes or you will never even know that they exist. And yes, for sure, we have got very many people who go through the process of life without ever discovering that there were other two boxes in their lives. Of course, you might be wondering, so how do I behave in this first box so that I'm able to discover the other two boxes, so that I'm able to be a player in the other two boxes? All right? But before I tell you what you need to do, allow me then to remind us very importantly that for us to start playing in this game, first we need to belong in the first box. What do we do to belong in the first box? We need to find something to do. We need to find a job to do, or we need to establish a business to do. We must do something economically that will bring what we will call active income. The income that we get in exchange for our time, for our sweat, for our skills, for our expertise. And last week, we defined it as active income. So we must first find something to do. That's the starting point, so that we gain entry into the first box, the box of money, acquisition, and management. So that box does two things. It receives money, it acquires money. After you have done, those things that we are talking about, it receives money. Then it gives you chance to manage money, okay, to make choices upon the money that you have made. So let me come to the secret. What should you do so that you can be able to move from this box one and you go to the other two boxes? The first thing you need to do, or probably even the only thing, is for you to realize that the money you make in that box, the money you make in that first box, is meant to do two things. And especially the first money that comes, the active income that comes into that box, needs to do two things for you. One is to sustain you. Okay, for your upkeep, you need money. Okay, we live a life that is powered by money. Secondly, out of that money, we need to get seed that we will plant for future multiplication, for future harvesting. Now, this is what has been the missing link. We have been advised about money in various ways, but there is one advice that always stands out. It's the most available financial advice. Probably you have given it even to someone because you are also given. And this is the advice that says, live within your means. You've heard it, right? Live within your means. Brilliant advice, good advice. It has been given to us from time immemorial. We have also given others. Good advice. But in my opinion, I have considered it as incomplete advice. Why do I say so? Because if I keep telling you to live within your means, I may need to forgive you for imagining that the only work your salary or your active profit is supposed to do for you is to sustain you. Because I'm just reminding you to always ensure you live within your means. Okay? So you might be mistaken to believe that the only work your active income is supposed to do is to sustain you. But if you have lived in this life long enough, you would want to agree with me that in the fullness of time, the changes in the economic environment will render your income inadequate very soon. The rising cost of living, prices of things are going up, inflation and all those things will render your income inadequate because those prices grow faster than the rate at which your income is growing. So, we must add something. We must put an addendum. We must add another phrase to that advice and remind you that it is not just enough to live within your means. You must deliberately decide to put a portion, to pinch a portion from the active income that comes to you, to pinch a portion and put it aside. Retain it with you so that it can form seed for future multiplication. Sometimes I have said it is not right to judge people. But if you must judge people financially, if you're pushed to a corner to judge someone financially, then please don't judge them by how much money they earn. Please do so by how much money they are able to retain with them. So that takes us to the second box, the box of money retention. The blue box that you can see here, I call it the box of money retention. That from what you received from the red box, you managed your money in such a way that you decided to pinch a portion and retain it with you. So when you pinch and retain, you move to the box of money retention. You come to box number 2, the blue box. Now we get to the blue box initially through the process that we fondly call saving. So you are in box 1, you decide, I will be saving a portion of what I receive. So in the first box, I have given you the secret. Remember to pinch a portion and retain it with you. But the biggest secret that will allow you to be able to survive from that first box is to make sure that you plan your expenditure. So a budget is very important in the first box. It is what will allow you to be able to manage whatever you will receive in a prudent way and also allow you to be able to retain. And please factor in whatever you are retaining in your budget. Then we move to the second box. You have decided to retain some money. You have decided to save some money. I have also argued that this portion that you retain is the only portion of your money that you can call your money. And I know some of you have seen some time back, there's a video that I released which was doing rounds with humility globally. And I was saying that you need to be arrested for claiming that money that is not yours is yours. And I have been asked questions times without number, questions as to why I said that people need to be arrested for claiming that money that is not theirs is theirs. But I've defended myself. And I have said, money that you claim to be yours is money that you have absolute power over. If you call something yours, it is something that you can change your mind over. It is something that you can handle whichever way you want. If a car is yours, if you choose to, smash the windscreen of the car, nobody will ask you, it's your car. So if you call money your money, I want to presume that it is money that you can actually wake up and change your mind over and say, hey, I wanted to use this money to do this, but because it is mine, I am changing my mind. I want to use it to do this. And so I have asked you, if you had money set aside, if you live in a rented house, for example, and you have money set aside for rent, is it possible that you can go to your house and declare That because this is my money, I am deciding that we are not going to pay rent for the next 4 months. I am changing my mind. It is my money, right? I'm changing my mind. I want us to use this money, instead of paying rent, to use it for other things. Will it work? What about if you have children in school? Will it also work that you can get to your home and say, for the next 2 terms, we are not paying school fees because it's my money. So instead of paying school fees, I am changing my mind. I want to use this money to do this other thing. It cannot work. What about money for food? Is it possible that you can also go to your house and change your mind? Tangazo, tangazo. In this house, we are not going to eat food for the next, 1 month, 1 week. We are not going to eat food. It's my money. Okay. So I'm changing my mind. The money for food, I want to use it to buy a phone. Will it work? I ask you. Will it work? Of course, it will not work. Therefore, that money that you've been calling yours is not your money entirely. It belongs to your service providers. It belongs to your landlord if you live in a rented house. It belongs to the supermarket where you do your shopping from. It belongs to the school where your children are schooling from. It is not your money. You need to be arrested for calling it your money. So which one becomes your money? The money that becomes your money is the money that you deliberately retain from whatever you received. The money that you set aside, the money that you save, is the money that you can call yours. Because that particular money, you can change your mind over. You can wake up and say, I was saving money for holiday, but I have changed my mind. I am not going to go on holiday. I am going to use this money to buy a handbag. And no one will knock your door. The holiday guys, the hotel guys will never come to your house and tell you, hey, we saw you saving money to come to our hotel. Give us that money. Because that money is your money. And that is why retaining part of what you earn is very important. Okay? So we are at box 2. But allow me to also give you a few tips in box 2. Just a few tips to help you succeed as you decide to save money. Number 1, you need to know why you are saving. It's very important. You need to know why. I am a big advocate of purpose-driven borrowing. And that is why, for the very many of you who have ever asked me, how much should one save, for them to be safe? I don't have an answer for every one of us. We all cannot fit in one bracket. I know sometimes we will tell you a minimum of 10%, a minimum of 20% is good, but I'm one person who does not like putting people in boxes because life is not uniform for all of us. So I'm a big advocate of purpose-driven savings. If you know why you want to save, first of all, that reason begins to push you. It dictates how much you need to be setting aside every month. Then you have a big drive. That thing helps you to be disciplined because I want to achieve this thing by this time. And therefore, I need to be setting aside this much money every month, every day, every week, whatever the period will be for you. Now, you need to know why you are saving. If you are saving, and different people save for different things, there will be someone saving for a rainy day. And I need to mention that while box 1 is the biggest box, box number 2 only gets a few people into it. Very many people remain in box 1, and there are people who stay there till they die. So just a few get into box number 2. They get to save. Out of those who get to box number 2, majority of them, unfortunately, save only for a rainy day. We have a cluster who save not knowing why they are saving. Okay? Of course, they are better than those who never save. But for those who know why they are saving, majority of them save for a rainy day. In the event things don't go the way they are going, what will they do? If another COVID-19 were to happen, God forbid, what will they do? They're saving for a rainy day. They're creating an emergency kitty. which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But now, where the process of wealth creation is concerned, then we need to be saving money for reasons beyond a rainy day. Number two, if you choose to save money, be sure to save before you spend, because money refuses to remain to be saved after spending. If you are like me and you've ever tried to say you will save what will remain, you must have been frustrated like I was back in the day when I would realize that money refuses to remain to be saved. So save before you spend. The next tip I must give you is that you must remember to be consistent in your savings. Be consistent. Consistency means that you will be consistent in terms of amount. So if you settle on a particular amount, then you don't want to go below that amount. You are allowed to go beyond the amount, but don't go below the amount. Then consistency also in terms of frequency. If you're doing it monthly, then don't get to a point where you start skipping certain months. Sometimes there might be a temptation, something telling you that this month looks a bit tough, so let me skip this month, I will do double next month. That is a temptation you must resist. If you must do anything double, then please do double now, so that then you can skip the next month. Okay? Then the last tip I must give you is that you must be disciplined. Learn to say no where no is due. In the course of you setting money aside, temptations to break into that account will always come. You must learn to say no where no is due. If you had not budgeted to spend on something, do not break your savings account to spend on that thing. But now that we are in the blue box, assuming you have succeeded to start getting into the blue box, allow me to disturb you a bit by reminding you that there is nothing interesting, there is nothing fancy in you piling money, okay? Just putting money aside for you to just be looking at it and feeling nice that my money is here. You know, I can see it. My money is here. There is nothing interesting in just piling money. No one ever got wealthy by saving alone. No one ever saved their way to wealth. So saving is a very crucial step in the process of wealth creation, but it is not the ultimate step. It is not the only step. So yes, congratulations, you've been able to save. You've moved from the red box to the blue box. But that is not enough. Do not be like some of my customers back in the day when I was still banking. And I would observe a certain special group of customers who used to come to the bank every day, not to transact, but to check their balance. Every morning as they go to work, they would pass by the bank. And they would get to the desk and they would ask, check for me the balance. Niangalilie balance. And later on, looking at them, I began to see people who are comfortable, knowing that their money is intact. Their money is where they left it. As to whether they were doing this from a position of fear, that's a different conversation. But here is a person who is comfortable that their money is where they left it, that their money is intact. But are they creating wealth? They are not. And here is the basic reason. You see, when you save money, your money grows arithmetically. That means if you're saving 2,000 shillings per month, if your balance today is 4,000, it means the next time you will save, we expect your balance to go to 6,000. If you don't save, then your balance remains at 4,000. That's what I mean by it grows arithmetically. You know, it piles piece by piece. So it is not multiplying. It does not have chance to attract more than that which you put on top of it. There is the danger that factors like inflation might affect money that you are just piling for you to be looking at and smiling, as long as it's not attracting some more money. Okay, that money might still be there. You might be smiling that the money you placed in the bank last time is still there. You've checked balance, it is still there. You might be happy. But while you are smiling, the time you were putting that money in the bank, it was able to buy 10 loaves of bread. Today, while you smile, that money might only be enough to buy 2 loaves of bread because it is not attracting anything else on top of it. So what are we supposed to do? Once you get into box number 2, you must quickly acknowledge that it is not the end. It is not enough. That no money should be allowed to idle around us. Money should be sent to call for more money. Remember we said you need to retain a portion that will be seed for future planting, for future multiplication. Okay? Those of you that grew up in the village like I did, you must have realized that every time our parents would harvest, be it corn, be it beans, or whatever it is they harvested, before we started consuming what we have harvested, they would first of all pick from this that we have harvested what will be good seed for the next season. Then they would keep it in a secure place for the next season. But this is one thing they always did. When the next season came, they remembered where they kept their seed. They picked that seed and they planted it. Because if you retain seed and you don't remember to plant, you are as good as someone who never had seed in the first place. Therefore, if you retained, remember to send it. Remember to plant it. To go and call for more. And that takes us to the third box, the green box, the box I call the box of money multiplication. You retained some money. You now send it to go and call for more money. And that is achieved through the process you have fondly called investment. You've heard about it. You've talked about investment. All right. So we're just taking ourselves through this process bit by bit. And I hope you're taking notes. And I hope you're beginning to see how it can apply to each one of us. Each one of us can decide to retain something, to be seed. And once we have retained, we can choose to send it to call for more money. And we go to the third box. We said the second box has got fewer people compared to the first box. We must also say the third box has the fewest, if there is a word like that. Okay? It has even fewer people compared to the blue box. Okay? So you have retained, you have saved your money. You now invest it. The basic definition of investment is the use of money to create more money, the use of money to attract more money, sending money to work for you, converting money into your employee. And sometimes I say that money is the best employee you can ever have because money never gets tired. Money does not go on leave. If you placed it in a good place, money does not have mood swings. While you have your own mood swings as you process them, while you go on leave, while you get tired, your money will be working for you in the third box, the green box. So let's come to the third box. Okay, assuming you have successfully remembered and you've done what we have said and you have sent your money to go to the third box, to work for you, to call for more money, because we have said no money should be allowed to stay idle. Even the money you are setting aside for a rainy day, that money shouldn't be idle. There are many investment options that can also hold your money for a rainy day. Your emergency kitty money can also be placed somewhere so that instead of staying idle, it can also be attracting something. So while we are in box 3, allow me to also remind you a few things that will help you. Number 1, before you invest your money, get to understand why you want to invest. What do you seek to get out of this investment? What is your ideal investment option going to do for you? What would you look at and say, yes, this is working for me? This question will help you not to put your money where you are, where whatever you will get does not agree with your expectations. For example, there is someone who wants to invest for something they will want to enjoy 10 years from today. That person is different from another one who wants to invest because they feel that their current income is a bit strained. Therefore, they want another source that can supplement their current income. This second person is looking for an investment option that can give them supplementary income, periodic income. These two cannot work using the same vehicle. And even if they use the same vehicle, one of them will be dissatisfied, while the other will be satisfied. Okay, so get to understand why. Secondly, get to understand your risk profile. What type of person are you in terms of risk? What is your appetite like? What is your risk appetite like? How much risk can you handle? Okay, because you might end up putting your money in avenues whose realities do not conform with your risk appetite or your risk profile. For example, there is someone who will buy shares from the stock market today, and they buy shares from a particular counter at 10 shillings. 10 shillings per share. Tomorrow, as they watch news, in the financial segment, they realize that the share price has dropped from 10 to 9. There is someone who begins to have high blood pressure because of that reality. They forgot that the stock market is a very volatile market. So you need to know yourself. There are some people who reach out and say, look, for me, I would rather have small returns, but have my capital safeguarded. So they know themselves. They understand that it's a risky story, but they know that they cannot handle the kind of volatility that happens in certain investment options. So you need to know yourself. Number 3, try to understand your investment option. Wherever it is you want to invest your money, what happens there? Take your time and do a bit of research. Understand what happens there. If someone is luring you into investing money with them, ask questions. Ask questions. It is through questions that we get to discover scams. But take time and understand what happens there. Don't just put your money somewhere because they have promised you heavy returns. Okay? If someone is promising you out of this world returns, please take a moment and ask yourself, what do they do with my money that gives them these very big returns that they are promising, so that they are also able to give me, the big ones that they are promising and retain a profit for themselves because they are in business. If it does not make sense, please pause. At least the money is still in your hands. Number 4, don't be in a hurry to commit to an investment. Let no one rush you. Let no one push you to commit to any investment option before you understand it, before you appreciate that this is the right one for you. Do not be in a hurry. You will burn your fingers. Take time. If anyone is rushing you, it's a telltale sign that things might not be what they seem to be. All right, so that is the third box. We are creating wealth. We haven't finished creating. When you are sending your money to work for you, there is something you are expecting. When you are investing money, there is something you are expecting. This thing we have called returns. Now, returns move us from the third box, and they go to pour back into the first box, and that completes our triangle. I told us it's a triangular cycle. So that completes our triangle. That means our first box begins to have a second type of income. Initially, it had our first income. What we said was our active income. Okay? So maybe our first income was salary. After we have taken our money through these boxes, when the returns go, they go as a second set of income. The returns will go wearing different names depending on where you invested your money in the green box, in the box of multiplication. For example, your returns might go wearing a t-shirt labeled profit if you invested your money in a business. You see, there is someone who retains money saying, I want to save money. When it gets to 20,000, I will open a kiosk a grocery shop because I can see there is no grocery shop in my neighborhood. So when they get to their goal, they open a grocery shop. Now they have sent their money to go and call for more money in a business. What will they get from the business? They will get profit. So the returns will go wearing a t-shirt labeled profit as it pours into the first box. For other people, the returns will go wearing a name rental income or rent, because they placed their money in a place where it would attract rent. For other people, it will go wearing a tag interest, because they placed their money in an avenue that earns interest. Maybe they put their money in treasury bills, treasury bonds, or they put their money in bank accounts where interest was earned. Okay? Other people will have their returns wearing the tag dividends, because they placed their money in an avenue that earns dividends. Other people will get their returns wearing the tag royalties, because they sent their money to go and attract royalties. Maybe they used their money to invest in an idea that would allow them to earn royalties, an idea that other people would use and share their spoils with them. Maybe they came up with intellectual assets, intellectual property. They wrote a book. They put their money into the production of the book, and other people are now selling the book, producing the book, and sharing royalties with them. Maybe they used their money to produce music, and this music is earning royalties to them. Maybe they came up with a business, and other people have asked for permission to replicate, to franchise this business in different locations and share royalties with them. So their returns go wearing the name royalties, and so on. So the returns will go wearing different names depending on where you placed your money. I hope we are flowing. I'm saying, sharing all these options to show that each one of us can be able to play in this cycle. So we have a second set of income in the first box. Now, the first box has two incomes. This process is supposed to be ongoing. It's not supposed to stop as long as you are alive. It's supposed to be ongoing. There are some blunders we make in this process. There are some people who have tried to create wealth. When I ask how many of us are creating wealth, are doing this process, we may get some hands up. But now when we get to see the wealth that has been created over time, we don't get to see. Why? Because some of us, immediately we receive the second set of income, we quickly adjust our lifestyle to swallow the new income. And so, yes, we tried to create wealth, but we are mark timing, because immediately we get returns, we eat them. Immediately we get returns, we eat them. So we are our own enemies to this process, because this is a simple process that all of us can be able to partake of. But we must be very careful. We must be very, very careful. We are supposed to, when we receive the next set, to continue managing our money meticulously. If that happens, then that means we can be able to retain more than we did the first time. Remember, the first time we were retaining from one income. So if we got another income, then we stand a chance to retain more. Take more to box number 2, the blue box. Now, that means we are able to take more to the green box. That means we are able to attract more returns in the next cycle. And the cycle continues. Ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, that is what I call the focused wealth creation cycle. With all humility, it's not a cycle you will get anywhere. You will not Google it out. It's a cycle that I figured out when I was thinking about the process of wealth creation. And I have read a lot about wealth creation. Interestingly, different scholars, different other people are describing the same process, albeit using different words. It was interesting when I read later on the classic book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And they were describing principles of wealth creation. And principle number 1 caught my attention because it agreed with what I have described, the movement from the red box to the blue box. That principle says that a part of all I earn is mine to keep. Remember, I told you the only money you call yours is money that you retain with you. So that is the wealth creation cycle. But allow me to tell you a few things to note. Number 1, this process will not be as easy as I have explained. There are times you will burn your fingers, especially in the green box. When you are sending your money to work for you, you might burn your fingers at some point. That will not mean the process has failed. That will mean that you need to pick your lessons so that the next attempt, you know what to avoid, and you can begin to become better in every other attempt. Remember the cautionary measures I gave you in the third box, in the green box. Don't forget them because they will help you to minimize chances of burning your fingers. Okay, so it will not be as smooth as I have explained, but it is a tested and proven model. So if you burn your fingers in the third box, it doesn't mean you can never get wealthy. It doesn't mean you can't make wealth. It just means you need to get up, dust yourself, pick your lessons, and shoot again the next time. The second thing I must let you know is that it is not mandatory that when you retain, that money has to stay in the second box for a certain specific period of time. No. The duration that your money will stay in the blue box will vary from person to person, situation to situation, depending on what you want to do with that money, on what you will do in box 3. There are instances where you can actually be retaining as you're multiplying at the same time, so that we don't see any time lag in between. For example, there is someone who will choose to save their money in money market funds. So you are retaining, but at the same time as you retain, you are also earning something on top of your money. So what have you done? You have retained and multiplied at the same time. So yes, you are creating wealth, but there is no time lag in box number 2. Okay, so I will not tell you that your money must stay in box number 2 for 1 month, for 1 year, for whatever period. No, it will vary and depend with what you want to do with that money, especially where you want to take that money as you go into box number 3. Okay, the third thing that you must note is that this process, for it to succeed, you must be consistent. So consistency in box 1, how you manage your money, budgeting, deciding what your money will do, sticking to the budget, remembering to retain, and while you have retained, remembering to retain consistently, and then remembering why you are retaining and that no money should sit idle, and therefore sending that which you have retained to box number 3 to go and multiply. That is the process of planting the seed. And while you're doing so, you get your returns and you are consistent to continue going through that cycle so that it does not break. And even when you burn your fingers, you are consistent enough and deliberate enough to shoot again. Remember that. Then number 4, don't be quick to eat the returns that begin to come from the process when you start it. And I think I have already told you that there are those of us who quickly jump into swallowing. We quickly adjust our lifestyle to accommodate what we have just earned. Please be careful not to quickly jump into utilizing that which you have made from the process. Of course, you don't have to deny yourself to the core for you to play into this game. Remember, as you do your budgeting in box 1, the red box, remember to factor your lifestyle. And I like saying when I teach about budgeting, and I think in one of these segments of a word from the coach, I'm going to give you a word about budgeting, okay? One of the things I say about budgeting is that a budget does not come to change your lifestyle. It only comes to introduce boundaries. It only comes to introduce limits in your lifestyle. One day, someone asked me in class, "Coach, I am a smoker. Is it possible that I can also succeed in budgeting?" And I could tell that this is someone who believes that budgeting comes to force them from stopping to smoke. That is not the work of a budget. All right? Later on, if you will choose to stop, that is fine. That is okay. But the work of a budget is to bring limits, because the money you receive comes to you measured, and therefore it must also go out measured. Okay. Number 5, and the last tip that I must give you on this model, for it to work, you must define wealth in your own terms. If you aspire to be as wealthy as so and so, this process will frustrate you. You must have your own goals. You must be true to your own journey. You must be comfortable in your own skin as you create your own wealth. The problem with many of us is that we define our wealth using other people's words. I want to be as wealthy as so and so. I want to have this and this that so and so has. Then if that is how you look at wealth, then this model is not your model. Yes, it will fail terribly. Good people, I hope I have contributed to your body of knowledge. I hope that this model is a model that you can be able to try. Please try. I have taught this model for years now, and I have received feedback. I have subjected myself to the model. I have received feedback from very many people who have tried out the model, and for me to be able to share it with you today, I am sharing because I know that it has been subjected to the test of time, and it has borne fruits. And therefore, I have no doubt that it can also bear fruit in your own life. And I hope you've taken your notes. This video will remain here. Please like this video if you've liked what you have heard, so that it can also be suggested to very many other people. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Please share this content with other people so that they can also be learning with us. Tell a friend to tell a friend so that we can continue growing together. I hope to see you next week as I give you another word from the coach. Thank you so much. You can do better. And this is a word from the coach.